Chris Mackowski of Emerging Revolutionary War, and I am in the Massachusetts Historical Society, where I'm standing next to George Washington's handwritten copy of the Newburgh Address. In 1787, a bunch of disgruntled officers wanted to take the Continental Army and march on Congress and get their back pay and get their pensions taken care of. And Washington was aghast and instead wrote out this address to talk about how it was important that they really subserviate themselves to civilian rule. And as he's reading this letter, he stops and he takes out his glasses from his pocket and he puts them on and says that he's not only grown gray, but also poor of eyesight in the service of his country. And it's a moment that really shakes up his officer, does a lot to diffuse the situation, and it really does a lot to really cement that idea that American military rule is subservient to the civilian rule. So having this document here, seeing Washington's own signature and his own handwriting is just fantastic. This place is just filled with fantastic little tidbits and artifacts and exhibits. The thing that gave me the most goosebumps is actually right over here. I'm a big John Adams fanboy, and this is a copy of his letter book. It's open to a letter that he wrote shortly after meeting George III for the first time. And he's sitting outside the king's bedchamber where the king met people for the first time. It was really Adams's first chance to make a statement about what America was, and it really was a turning point in Anglo-American relations. And so to see Adams's beautiful handwriting in this really, just gave me chills. Fantastic, fantastic. And then next to him is a letter that comes from Mary Cranch, Adams' sister-in-law, to Adams' wife, Abigail. Abigail, full partner in that relationship, and not be in the United States without her. Over here is the writing desk of Phyllis Wheatley. Wheatley came to the United States as a slave in 1861. She was 6 years old, 8 years old. I'll have to reread the plaque and see if I can remember. And she wrote poems, even though she was enslaved. The picture of her that is on the wall behind me was actually also engraved by an enslaved man who was an engraver. And so that's how we see her, although the desk in the picture there doesn't match the desk, but wow, what a cool connection. And then right over here across the room, in a room full of all kinds of cool stuff, is actually a little piece of the original Liberty Tree. This stood alongside the road into downtown Boston on the Boston Neck. Boston kind of jutted out into the harbor, and one single road, Washington Street, came in along that neck, and the Liberty Tree is a symbol, stood right next to that road because it was so visible. Later becomes kind of, sweeps the nation, this idea of Liberty trees as rallying points. Effigies were hung from Liberty trees, so they have kind of a dark history to them as well. And then after the battles of Lexington and Concord, the British came in and chopped the damn thing down because they were so upset. And then finally behind me, where we started, that is a reproduction. When we started, it was original of a Bucks militia group. We don't know much about it except that they were African Americans, and they're still learning about the story here at the Massachusetts Historical Society. So that's a quick rundown of just a few of this huge collection that they have here. The Historical Society dates back to 1791. It's the first and oldest historical society in the country, and it's dedicated not only to preserve these artifacts and letters and documents, but also to disseminate. It's part of their core mission. Boston several times was ravaged by fires that destroyed a lot of documentation, and so the idea that we want to make copies of things and get them distributed was really central to the idea of this founding. So glad to give it just a quick little view of some of the cool stuff they have here at the Massachusetts Historical Society. I want to thank them for letting us in. I'm Chris Mackowski. Thank you for all you do to support Revolutionary War history.